only been playing 10 years. I suppose that's quite a while.
University, college, all those things for 10 years, you would have, 2 or 3 degrees.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Equivalency of a PhD, right? 10 years of schooling, right?
I guess I would. What would that make you?
Uh, Old.
Ah,
I'm Brad Wolf, and welcome to Dire Den. And today I've got a special guest, Dex Save Dan, who has an amazing YouTube channel that focuses on Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs, and has a fantastic, clever sarcasm in like every episode. It always cracks me up to watch your stuff. Welcome, Dan.
hey man, how you doing? You all right?
Doing good, doing good.
I'll try not to be as sarcastic today.
Oh no, we love the sarcasm
Oh,
around
we love
here.
this. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool, cool.
yeah,
I mean, I'm British. It goes with the territory, you know.
yeah.
It's
It's in your blood, right?
oh, absolutely. It gets me in trouble at work. It's great.
Yeah. And today we are talking about mastering the game, and this whole series has been about the different aspects of being a game master. And this one we're specifically focusing on improv. And obviously there's, improv comedy, and there's all sorts of tips you can find online about improv and stand-up kind of approach to improv. But in role-playing games, improv is a little bit different because you're not just improving a scene. Sometimes you're improving world building, you're improving, character out of nowhere. So there's a lot that goes into role playing when it comes to improv. So
Absolutely, all the
yeah,
time.
of everybody who volunteered to do this series, you're the one who was like, yeah, I make stuff up all the time. My whole game is made up, basically, is the impression I got.
100%. Oh, absolutely. It's ridiculous.
So
The
you run your game mostly on the fly.
yeah, but pretty much. I mean, I won't lie. Of course, prep goes into it. Like, I'll hold my hands up there, and yes, I do prepare. I don't just go in and go, okay, what happened last time? Okay, okay, guys. So here's what happened last time. Let's go. I don't just do that. There will be a bit of prep in there, but I am very much of the belief of the collaborative storytelling side of things. So yes, very much about improving and going with it on the fly.
All right. Well, so what I'm going to do is I have a list of tips that are generally given when it comes to improv, and largely they come out of the improv comedy realm. But we're going to take these tips and talk about how they can apply to role playing games. So the first tip, which is probably the most common, I'm sure all of you out there have already heard, is the yes and the yes but.
I think we're so very quick, naturally, a lot of us to say no.
Hmm.
You know, can I, especially when it comes at the table, like, can I do this impossible thing? No, it's impossible. Come on. It should be that, yeah, go on then, let's give it a go.
You can
But
always try.
you can always try, and I know that's that is a big thing. And it gets talked about a lot, you can always try and stuff. But I fall into that trap sometimes that I will say no sometimes, and I really beat myself up about it. Like afterwards, I'll think about it for days afterwards. Like, I said no. Why did I say no? Why didn't I say yes? But and let the role happen and that sort of thing. Um, so yeah, it's for me, it is about giving players that I can do this, and it does promote that. We're talking about improv here. It promotes that I'm going to give it a go. I'm going
Right.
to do it. I think that let them embrace that. Yes, don't shut them down. If you're shutting them down early on, they're not going to come forward and try and do things. They're not going to bring ideas that are going to be great for the game and great for the campaign. They're going to go inwards. So rather than that no, you want that yes, absolutely. Give me a roll, but this happens. So yeah,
Right.
that's kind of what it means to me.
When I was young and I was first DMing, I think the no comes from a place of you don't know what to do. Like they
Mm.
say they want to do this thing and you have no idea how that would work, how it's going to resolve itself, and you're kind of scared of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the no comes from. But if you say
Yeah.
yes, it can be really fun to see how it comes out at the table.
Yeah. And that is part of the fun. It is just embracing that. And I think this is the thing is that like you say about, you're not sure how to kind of react. And uh, I was saying to you earlier, I'm relatively new to the hobby, new to the hobby, sort of 10 years. But but I was born into 5e, and there are a lot of rules to remember when you
Hmm.
start. And I know people have said this a million times, but there are, and I think that does encourage that on the spot kind of no, because I
Right.
don't know. And me personally, that's why I've lent so much more towards sort of OSR systems and rules light and that sort of thing, where it does promote more of that, for me anyway, more of that creativity. I'll just do it on the fly. I'll do what I do at work every day and just make it up.
That's great. That's great. The next thing on our list, the next tip is to feed the hot hand. And that's a basketball reference. I don't know if you guys get a lot of basketball in the UK.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not a sports guy. I'll hold my hands up. I like ice hockey, and that's about it. But no, basketball is definitely not a thing over here. There's probably loads of UK basketball fans going, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm sorry. I don't know.
So and as we're recording this, right, the Olympics is going on right now. So they're
I mean, it is, yeah.
they're playing world competitive basketball in Europe right now.
Yeah.
But so feed the hot hand is the idea. Whoever is on the hot streak, who's ever shooting well that night, you want to keep giving them the ball, right? So the feed the hot hand is the idea of who's ever like really into it, whoever's got the momentum. You want to keep giving the scene back to them, right?
Hmm.
Can you think of any ways that applies to your game or any examples of that?
Oh, this is a fine line, and it like I look as a DM or GM, you want to do that. Like someone who is like hot on the RP that night, like just on it, or whatever it may be, explanation combat, just rolling well, just on it. You do, of course, you do. But I think there is that fine line. If you keep giving them something, you've got to really be conscious of your other players, because no matter if you're in a smaller group, sort of 3-4 people, or a bigger group, if you're all right with a bigger group, sort of 5-6, maybe even 7, which is madness. I play in a 7-person campaign. It can be madness sometimes, but
Oh, yeah.
you've got to be really conscious of sort of other people at the table, I think, and just making sure you are still sharing it. Yeah, you want to give that person that feed the hot hand. You want to give them that ball to run with and score with, kind of thing. Then you can pass that ball to other people as well. If you
Right.
if you're if you're hot on it and you understand as a player, right? Yeah, I'm rolling with this. I want to get other people involved. How would you? I'm going to say this. What would you say? That sort of thing. Cool. But it
Yeah.
is just that fine line for me.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Like, because it's one thing as a game master to look at these rules and think about how we as game masters can implement them,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it's really beneficial to that everybody at the table understands these tips, because you're exactly right. Like, you want to feed the hot hand as the game master, but you also want, like what you just said, you want that player who's on the hot streak to know, and that
Hmm.
leads us right to our next step,
Yep.
that share the spotlight, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, leads on perfectly to sort of share the spotlight, and that's something that I am hugely conscious. Even more than probably anything else at my table is the sharing the spotlight. Um, is just to make sure that everyone is enjoying the game and
mhm,
has a chance to shine in their certain way, whatever it may be. And I know that can't happen in every single game if you're in a long campaign or something like that. It's not always completely viable, but it's something as a game master that I'm always conscious of. So I will always, even if we've got that player who is, kicking ass and all the rest of it, I will, if they're not that familiar with playing or something like that, I will always move it on and be like, so how would Donald react to this? This has just been said. What would he do? That sort of thing. And just ensuring that everyone, gets their piece. Again, with that, it's how they play. I think as a GM, once you've understood how sort of players play, again, lots of videos out there on that. You might have a player who's more of a spectator. who
Right.
is more just there to sort of watch and enjoy the role play that other people do, or just there for a bit of combat. And
Right.
they're just there for sort of beer and pretzels, and I think my player would do this. When do we get to kill some orcs? That sort of thing. So just understanding, and in terms of that sort of sharing that spotlight.
Yeah, well, and I think like some examples of ways to share that spotlight. One of the things that I like to do when I'm role playing an NPC is, I try to be a little bit divisive, right? So you got the player who's the hot hand, and they're kind of driving the scene, and they're persuading this NPC, and then I'll turn and like, well, what does your elf friend think about that?
Yep.
And so have the NPC try to like see if there's any conflict in the group, right? So this NPC, that's as a way to kind of back out of this persuasion, right? And that creates some resistance to the scene, some tension, right? But you're using the other players trying to bait them,
Yeah.
and then the other players get to decide if they're going to support their friend,
Absolutely.
or if are they going to fall for it? Are they going to end up in the argument, and the NPC is going to be able to like sneak away while they're arguing, right?
Literally did it in my last game. It's funny you bring up that example. Have pirate captain basically with
Gotcha.
the rest of the pirates. Yeah, very charismatic. That's his whole thing. He's been riding the game all night. He's had that spotlight. He's very good at improvising and role playing, and it is literally experience. I'm like, okay, I've got to move this around. Walked into a shop, dwarven shopkeeper. Wasn't going to be like this, but I thought he's not going to like him. He's just not going to like humans, and that is it. No other humans in the group, just him. So instant dislike. No, I'm not having any of it. That's it. So and then it built that dynamic. He tried to charm and all the rest of it. You can try. Go. Let's roll. Pretty sure he's going to fail. But and that was it. It's like, so we had another dwarf in the group. Cool. So what would Coco say to this? How would Coco react to this? And then there was a whole thing. So yeah, absolutely. Just throwing that spanner in the works that we
Yeah.
as GMs like to do every so often.
Yep, I did a similar thing years ago. I had a player who was he played a Goliath fighter, right? Very straightforward, straight-laced character. But he had become kind of the hero of the group because he always rolled well in combat. He was very much like Grog from Critical Role, right?
Yeah.
So but he always kind of shied away from the social encounters. One, because the player himself was shy.
Yeah.
And two, because his character had a low charisma, so it was an easy excuse for that player to like drop out of social encounters. But at one point, the group walks into a scene, and I have the female shopkeep like turn to him and like with kind of lusty eyes, like, "Ooh, I like this big strong man," right? And
yes.
and so from that point forward, he had advantage on all of his charisma checks in that scene, because she found him attractive because he was big and strong, right? So that was a way to like, I guess I could have even just let him have his strength bonus to his persuasion checks or whatever,
Yeah.
however you want to do mechanically, right? But you can find ways for NPCs to have, a bent towards one character over another.
Absolutely.
Simply because of their background or their species or their class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a cleric might have advantages in a social encounter if they're in a temple, right?
Yeah.
So you can find ways to draw other players into a scene when they otherwise might shy away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just it's the world building, isn't it? It's that,
Right. Yeah.
it all plays into it. So
right, you can use the world building that you've already established, or use the role play to show, not tell, right?
Absolutely.
The lore of the game, or the the mood of a town or whatever. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different ways to share the spotlight and invite others in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was actually the third tip on our list, was the invite others in, but I think we just covered that fairly well.
Kind of covered that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that does kind of go hand in hand, is that sharing the spotlight. You find ways to invite others in, to get them involved.
Right, and we use examples of like the dungeon master giving advantage because of a player's background or species, right? Or giving them a bonus from a different stat that they wouldn't normally use for a persuasion check or deception check.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for players, so DM, share this video with your players too, because this is going to help you. For players, you can think of, all you really have to know about the other characters is, background and species and class. If you know those three things, you can use those to invite other players in, right?
Absolutely.
All those examples we just gave. Well, you're the cleric. Shouldn't you know about this? Or you're the elf. You should know something about this.
Yeah.
Right? As a way to invite them in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, that's a perfect bit of advice, because it does, again, create that cohesion within the group.
Right.
And gets them thinking about, okay, how does this world work? Especially for for beginner players, it's like, look, it's not all about the rolling of the dice and the mechanics and the crunch of it and stuff. That's an absolute big part of the game, and if you're into that, cool, rock on. But when it comes to that sort of, like, the role playing and the improvising and that sort of thing, they're the stuff they're the bits you need to know, really, because then the other bits sort of tack onto that.
Right. Yeah. Give me a good group of role players who are going to be engaged and describe what they do, and I'll manage the game system.
100%.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't need to, like, the players who are really good at knowing, all right, I'm going to do this with my bonus action and this with my action, and I want to set this up for my reaction. Like, that's great. Right? The players who understand the game are fantastic, but I don't need everybody at the table to understand the game.
Right.
As long as you're creative with your description of what you want to do, I'll be like, okay, you want to run across the room, jump up and swing from the chandelier, and land on the bad guy and stab him in the back, right? Okay. Then I can figure out which part of that is the bonus action to dash, and which part of that is the move action to jump on the chandelier, and then, okay, there's the attack roll, right?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, but that's that's part of us, isn't it? I know we don't know everything and we can't know everything, but we will know enough to be like, cool, okay, yeah, let's do that step by step. Because if someone's going to bring that to the table, oh God, I love that. I love that. And honestly, actually, it's funny you should say that. I think about this quite a lot. Is I find 9 times out of 10, if I'm dealing with new players who have either rarely played or never played at all, they're the people that will do that.
Right.
I find with my other groups where I've been playing for a long time, or they're experienced and stuff like that, that's when the game comes into it, like the mechanics and the game sort of comes into it, and they think about that more. I'm not saying they're not creative or anything like that, but I just find with newer players, it's like having a kid in a candy store sometimes. Like, if they're really, really into it and they've sort of, embraced it, they'll come up with the most, you know, crazy stuff that I didn't see coming. I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Come on, I'll talk you through it.
Absolutely. Our next tip on the list is make others look good. The make others look good as a DM, when you're able to figure out how that fits into the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then let them do that cool scene that they want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're helping them feel good, look good, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I said it in one of my videos, just as I think it might have been in a prep video, that I said, look, if you've got someone who is a Deadeye archer and that's their thing, and they want that archetype, they want to be Legolas or they want to be Robin Hood or whatever it may be, for God's sake, give them something to shoot.
Right.
Like, put something in there to shoot. Yeah, if you're setting up those moments, whether it be combat, whether it be a social encounter, whether it be exploration, putting something cool in to find that one of the players is going to really love or interact with, or really, if they've got a backstory, relates to that. Just having that heads up of like, cool, okay, I can put that in there, and if they find that, or once I describe it, when whoever finds it, that's going to create a cool moment for that player.
Right.
It is just, setting up for success. That is what it is.
Yeah, I've got one of those players. He's fairly new to the game. The first time he ever started playing was with our group. So he's been playing, I think, maybe 2 years now, maybe approaching his third. But he's one of those players, like I talked about earlier. He's just always describing like some cool thing he wants to try.
Yeah.
Right. And half the time they're ridiculous, but it sets up a way to make others look good. Because a lot of times he's trying to do this elaborate thing, and I finally figured out, if I can't come up with any other way to like rule this mechanically, I can always describe it as him giving the help action.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So, he's trying to use his grappling hook to like trip the bad guy and all this sort of stuff. And if I can't come up with a good way to mechanically rule that, sometimes we do it as a grapple, whatever. But sometimes, he's trying to do something crazy. I'm like, okay. And now so-and-so has advantage on their next attack because you just tangle the bad guy up in your rope, right?
Because you tangled, or they're looking at you thinking, what's this guy doing? So all their focus is on him.
Right, yeah.
What is this guy trying to do down there?
and similarly, he was trying to drop a bed out a window on a group of zombies that were trying to come into the castle. And he failed his strength check. So instead of just saying, "Oh, you don't lift the bed," I describe it as you got the bed up and you kind of got it on the ledge of the window and it's teetering, but you're not able to get it out the window. And then, of course, that was a perfect setup for the other player to be like, "I run across the room and just shoulder that bed right out the window." And so it worked out perfectly, right? So sometimes those kind of like silly moments where you really don't know how to adjudicate it rules-wise, you can just hand it to the next player and see if they jump on board. And
absolutely. And it again, it leads into that, bringing other people in, giving them that cool moment.
And that leads to our next tip about giving choices, right? So kind of like we just described, where one player's actions, be it silly or goofy, can actually give other players ideas, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're in a scene and you see either the other person's kind of stalled and doesn't know what to do, right? Sometimes if you give them choices, that kind of sets them up for success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Sometimes there is that stall, isn't there? And it happens. It does happen. We're like, I don't know what to do. And I think it's okay to sort of reiterate, what's going on. Okay, so and setting the scene again.
Right,
so this is where you are. You've got this here, that there. This has just happened. It is always good to just have that reframe and that refresh. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, my head is now back in the game. I'm going to do this. So yeah, that reframe is always really good.
Yeah, and another example is when you're role playing, you can kind of give choices too. Sometimes, like it can be very overt, where like an NPC just says, "Do you want to do this or do you want to do that?" Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any examples of those kind of situations where an NPC can set up a choice for a player?
Yeah, I mean, there's the obvious ones. I mean, it's for me in the game that I'm running at the moment, I've given them the choice, essentially, of get a new pirate ship, essentially, or the king has gone missing. Do you want to help find him? These are kind of the choices. They've gone with the pirate ship, which is cool because I had more of that kind of in my head. So it's worked out all right for me. But yeah, I've given that choice. There's no, I mean, they can always pick the third crazy step, or you can go into town and go shopping if you want. Whatever you want to do, you're cool. But it does. But I love all that. So, some GMs might find that very intimidating, but I love it.
It really sounds like you thrive on the unknown. It sounds like as a DM, you want to be surprised even more, if not as much as the players.
100%. Like how I would like to describe how I play my game. Again, prep does go into this, guys. Don't think that I just do this on the fly. I do have an idea, otherwise it would be complete chaos. But I like. So I owned a movie rental store for many years, and I am a big cinephile. I just love film. I just love it, and that is what's happening in my head during the game. Always an improvised movie. Like that is what's happening, and whatever comes in, I can always sort of grab from my knowledge of films and stuff like that. It's like, right, I'm going to grab that and go with it, and adapt it as I go. And that's kind of what I love about it, is that freedom to do it. You do have to obviously have a mechanical system. As long as you've got that you can use, and it's and the players know the rules, you can guide them what to roll and so on and so forth. But yeah, I love that. That is the game for me. That's I like you said, I like to be just as surprised as my players, and my players often surprise me.
The next tip on the list is to zoom out. In other words, expand the scene. So this idea of, you're talking to a shopkeep, for example, and you can have that simple exchange of, I want to buy arrows and I want to get a discount and I haggle,
Yep.
blah, 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 right? And that could be a very simple, boring scene. But let's take that. So Dan, you're the DM now. How do you zoom out of that scene and now use that scene to either set up a plot hook or show off some world building?
Yeah, I've come in to buy some arrows. Oh yeah, here are your arrows. But I've only got 5 because there's an iron shortage. Since the king has been kidnapped, there's been bandits, all sorts of evil going on. The mines are craved by these bandits. So unfortunately, that's all I can give you. That'll be 5 gold, please. So you are expanding that world.
Yeah, well, the great thing about that is even if the players don't take that plot hook, you've still provided like the contextual verisimilitude, right? You've still
Absolutely.
provided a sense of realism in the world, because we have those moments in real life, right? Where you walk into a store to buy something and the 2 people working in the store are so busy complaining about something, right, that they don't even realize you're standing at the counter ready to make a purchase, right?
Absolutely.
We've all had that moment in real life, and that kind of scene is a perfect way to zoom out of a simple encounter with an NPC by showing off some, the NPCs are complaining about the royals, or they're joking about the town sheriff, or there's an iron shortage, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're given like a tavern as well. I know we're coming back to shops and taverns and so on, but that's it, exactly. The amount of times I've been sitting at a bar and I'm listening to 2 old guys going on about politics. I mean, yeah, I'm going to put that in my game,
right?
Definitely. And this is the thing, is that players can relate to that. They, there's that in their head. They're like, yeah, absolutely right. Okay, of course we're in this situation, but yeah, you just relate it to the game and give those little plot hooks and clues. And I love giving a clue that way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, cause it feels much more like real. Like the world feels lived in at that point versus when you just like, what happened last week? Yeah, you guys said you were going to do this, and then the other 3 things on the list of quests are this, and this. Like that feels like a video game with a drop-down menu.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. But if you're role playing it and you're setting it up like you said, 2 old guys complaining about politics in the bar, that can set up like a whole bunch of plot hooks.
Oh, so many. It's you could give them a waterfall of plot hooks and clues there, and they might not even know. That's the brilliant thing, isn't it? You could be smug there like that. Yeah. Let's see how many you get.
So I think those are some great examples of zooming out. But there's also the element of sometimes scenes can drag. So how do you move forward? How do you cut a scene and move on to the next one?
I mean, a mechanical point of view, and I know this isn't necessarily a mechanical sort of chat, but timers, I'm a big fan of timers, default timers, without a doubt. Is that if something is dragging, it doesn't matter whether it is a social encounter, RPing, combat, whatever it may be. If I feel that something is dragging or something like that, I will roll a d4, and something will happen. I might have an idea of what's going on. I might have already been thinking it, but there's that amount of sort of rounds that something will happen. I might set a timer. Usually I roll it. It's very rare that I will set a set timer. So I'll put it down and I'll say, right, you've got 2 rounds to do something. But then there are times where I will just break it off. I'm very good in real life of cutting things off. So I tend to do that in the game. I'm always the guy at the party when I want to leave. Like, you get people at the party who are always like, they've got to say goodbye to everyone. And they've got, and then it goes on for another hour. I'm always good at going, right, been a pleasure. Catch you later, guys. And then I'm off. But very much the same. I will be like, bring something else in.
Right.
Whether I use a timer or not, I generally do. But if it is really going nowhere, then I'll spice it up somehow. Maybe with a random table.
There you go.
Who knows?
I'm thinking on, like, as you're describing that, a scene where they're arguing with the Duke or whatever, or they're trying to persuade the Duke in some way, and then in walks, the advisor to the Duke, and the advisor comes in and says, "Sir, we have to move along. You have another meeting in 5 minutes, right?" Something like that.
Something along those lines. But again, it might be something more dramatic. Depends how I'm feeling.
Yeah, or like the scene's going too long in the tavern, and a group of obnoxious adventurers come in and start raising hell, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like just 5 bandits come bowling in. They're all drunk already. But then I like to spice it up a bit, and it's like, well, they are bandits, but they're not really causing any trouble. They're just being a bit drunk. What do you want to do? And then that goes into a whole other encounter. Like,
Right. Well, and that's the choices, right?
absolutely, yeah.
So,
It's like,
so even saying, these guys are shady looking bandits, but they're not really doing anything wrong right now. Just
no,
that alone sets up a choice.
100%. That's the
Right.
thing. And in fact, one of them's being very friendly to you and offering you a drink, but you do suspect he is a bandit.
You're pretty sure he had his face on a wanted poster on the other side of town.
Exactly, yeah. But you can't remember how much the reward was.
So that's a great way to like throw a twist, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's the moving forward part, and then of course our last tip here is the face your fear, because all of this stuff, kind of where we started, right? So sometimes the reason we say no is because we're afraid of what might happen,
Yeah.
or since we don't know the answer off the top of our head, we often say no.
Yeah.
How do you face your fear? How do you get over that intimidation that comes with all the chaos of improv?
Me personally, it's kind of a tough one because it's not fair for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I love it.
Yeah, you thrive
Like,
on the chaos.
I thrive on the chaos. That chaos. I love that random. I don't know what's going to happen, and when something does happen, we've got to roll with it, or I've got to roll with it. I love that. I love that more than anything. As a GM, especially as a GM, and as a player as well. So for me, it's all good. I guess it goes back to when I was at secondary school, at high school, and college. Always did drama. I loved improv. I loved making things up on the spot. So it was always good. My videos, most of them are just me just going off on one. Honestly, so that's why all the outtakes are in there for those who have seen it. Yeah, so for me, it's just great.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So if it comes easy for you, how do you pull somebody else out of their shell?
That is how I am. I'm very animated. I don't have a GM screen or anything like that. I don't sit down. I am essentially performing. So whenever I've GM'd and sort of the players have seen what I'm doing, even when I fluff up my awful Scottish accent, which I really have a habit of putting in every time, and I can't really do it. It shows them that it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter to make mistakes, or even if I've got to stop and say, "Hang on a minute, I just need to check something. Hold that thought. Right, let's go." So if they can see you making that mistake or fluffing up that bit of RP, there's been times where I've been really on a roll with a bit of RP, and then my mind goes blank. I'm like, yeah, so he says something like this, but it's way more eloquent than I can put it right now because my brain's gone dead. It just shows them that it's okay to give it a go and actually do it and roll with it. And I think that's, it's what we said earlier, just roll with it and go with it. And, and everyone does play differently. So as a GM, you've just got to spot how that happens and cater towards each person. But as long as they can see you mess up, then it's okay for them to do it, isn't it?
Right, like you learn by making mistakes, right? So you
absolutely
you have to mess up
socially and in society. Whenever we make a mistake, we will go inwards. We'll be like, I've made a mistake. I don't want to show anyone. I don't want to embarrass myself. All of this. Mistakes should be celebrated. We should embrace that mistake, and like that, we need to learn. That's how we learn. Exactly like you said. We need to absorb that. We should share that. I don't really know how to do that. Can you show me? Yes, I can show you. 100%. I'd love to. And yeah, it's just about that openness.
So the point in all of this, right, is don't let the fear get in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you keep the fear from getting in your way, then you're trusting the process. And a lot of times that fear is because we don't trust ourselves or because we don't trust the players. And so, but when you embrace the trust and give yourself to the moment, and the moment pays off, right? That it's such an awesome moment, and it really
the gold. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the sweet spot, is when that happens. And like I say, when you can embrace that, it happens more often.
Right, exactly. Because the reward, that payoff rewards you, and that makes it easier to trust next time.
Absolutely.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
So and I think that's the real juice of the game. That's the fun of it. And that's why you'll hear or see people make comments online where they'll say, I can't believe we had a session last night and we did nothing but roleplay the entire time and it was great. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the games that I'm playing in, for months we have just RP and exploration. That's literally all it's been. There's been no combat.
Oh, wow.
And no one's really said anything.
Yeah.
We've had a great time with it, and it's been fantastic. We've broken that recently, but it has just been RPing, looking for clues, exploration, building the world. It's been great. It's it's really been good.
My players and we discussed doing a really Dark Souls inspired, grim, dark, gritty game, right? So we imported a couple rules. We kind of shifted the system around to really reinforce this grim, dark, scary world that they were going to be playing in, and they role played more than ever before.
Yeah,
like they were looking forward to, like, oh, this is going to be like Dark Souls. It's going to be gritty. We're going to fight. We're going to die.
We're going to die. Yeah. Oh.
But
they role played more.
But yeah, what it turned into is like, oh, this world is dangerous. Let's talk our way out of everything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's an example where the face your fear takes on another meaning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe you're not facing your fear so much, or in a different way. I don't
know. This has been great. This has been really fun to talk.
Been brilliant.
So, and like I said, DMs, hopefully you find all this helpful. Share this with your players, because if they understand these tips, that's going to help you.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely share it with them, with all of them. Maybe this is more a player video than anything else.
Right. Yeah. Even though it's in the Game Master series, I think we just made a video for the players.
Well, as long as we could cross, it can be both.
Cross the streams.
Cross the streams. No, don't.
So before we go, Dan, is there anything you want to plug? What do you have going on your channel, or what's in the works for you right now?
So still relatively new, I'll be honest, to the platform. Sort of only launched at the beginning of the year. So we will have videos out. We try every Monday. Obviously, sometimes life gets in the way, but we are striving to get as many out as possible. We might be a little bit on the back foot over summer holidays here in the UK, but we will certainly try and get as many out. But if you can like and subscribe, that'd be great. Leave a comment, all of that. I'm not very good at the whole sort of social side of this thing. I'll stick to the games sometimes, I think.
I'm with you. I'm not fantastic at promotion. I'm still working on that part.
We'll get good at it one day, I'm sure.
That's right. But I will say, if you haven't seen Dan's channel, go check it out. It makes me laugh. Like, every video I laugh out loud, at least at one point, probably 2 or 3 points in the video.
Excellent. That's what we aim for, to be honest.
I love your stuff.
Excellent. Thanks, man.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time in the Dire Den.